from this. It's a novel, as Ross said, it's a novel in what we call Pushkin sonnets. The Russians call Onegинskaya drama. If you don't know what they are, I'm going to explain because you won't get it. And you won't appreciate how hard. It's very important to you. You understood, isn't it? It's a 14-line sonnet form, but instead of 5 beats, shall I compare you to a summer's day, it's 4 beats, so it's shorter than the English here is used to. And it has a very particular rhyme pattern. It's A, B, A, B, C, C, D, D, E, F, F, E, G, G. So it's 3 different kinds of quatrains, followed by a couplet. And you have to have feminine rhymes. That's multi-syllable rhymes. Lines 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 12. Otherwise it's not. It doesn't count, really. My kids say this is autistic spectrum. I think it might be. When I do jigsaws, I always do the edge pieces first, and then fill in. And I think writing in Onegинskaya stuff is a bit like that, starting with the edge pieces and then filling them in. So you need to know that. You also need to know that it's a novel. It's a story in 150 sonnets, including obviously the contents are in the sonnet, the acknowledgements, dedications. They also make sonnets, obviously. And it's supposed to be funny. I was reading this at Newcastle University on Thursday from this, Newcastle Liturgical lecture hall full of students, and I realised that hardly any of the gags were working at all, because they do rely on a certain amount of reading. These are just university students who don't know nothing. So there's lots of jokes, and I know you'll get them all.
We'll just laugh.
It's also obviously based on George Orwell's 1984, which was never my favourite, one of my favourite books. You can't get through, well, you couldn't get through a British state education in the 1960s and 70s without having to read 1984, Lord of the Flies, Brave New World, and Animal Farm. Just so if at the age of 11, 12, you've got some illusions about the world being improvable and betterable, by the time you've read all these bloody books, it's been completely knocked out of you. And of course they have to tell you what they mean, because at the age of 12, you're reading Animal Farm. It's an interesting little story. Ah, but it's not about pigs. No, no, no. It's about... And then they tell you. So that's what you call a closed reading, I think. So it's my kind of take on George Orwell's 1984, whereas Orwell's novel is a dystopia. This is a utopia. His novel is a... It's not a bundle of laughs. It has an unhappy ending. Mine has a happy ending. Have the same characters, Orwell, but again, there are a series of inversions. Orwell's Winston Smith doesn't want to be a hero. He's an anti-hero, but he ends up doing something heroic. My Winston Smith wants to be a hero, but he's not very good at it. So he's not even an anti-hero. Orwell's Julia, he describes as being a rebel from the waist down. My Julia is a romantic from the neck up. So Winston and Julia, they have as little look in my version as they did in Orwell's. Some of the other characters you recognise from Orwell's book. Oh, it's also full of references to 1940s film noir, music, pulp fiction, detective fiction, and romantic fiction. Because Winston Smith is a policeman, a London bobby who's not very good at it, but he's always reading novels by Dashiell Hammett and James M. Cain and Raymond Chandler, because he wants to be Humphrey Bogart, really. That's what it comes out of. Whereas Julia, she reads novels by Jan Strugger and Baroness Orksheep, and Ethel Manning, because she wants to be a romantic heroine. And that's probably all you need to know. Nearly time to finish. Okay. So I'm just going to read you a few extracts from this, just to introduce you to the book and the way it works. So there's one other thing I do need to say, that Pushkin, if you know Pushkin's great book, Onegin, Pushkin, part of the comedy of the book is that Pushkin keeps interrupting his story to tell his characters to get on with it. It's a love story, and every now and again he says, Titania, come on. So I borrowed this irritating trope of the narrator who keeps interrupting his own story. So it's not just that I'm irritating, it's deliberate. So I'll read you the first extract is the beginning of the novel. It was a bright, cold day in April. Oh no, it wasn't. for a start, I cannot find a rhyme for April. And anyway, prosodic art demands a rather tighter metre. I always think iambics, metre. But if it isn't April, when? September? March? Let's try again. It was a bright. But does it matter? How relevant's the time of year? The clock was striking, dear, oh dear. But you may like descriptive chatter. I'd rather cut out these delays and start at once, in medias res. It was a bright, oh sod the weather, who cares what kind of day it was? I'm going to drop this altogether, or we'll be here all day, because I'll need to introduce some debris if we're to start this side of February. Or rhapsodise about the moon, if we begin in flaming June, which won't do justice to the idiom. I'm after here, look, I know what. Let's make it summer, make it hot. The time, just make it post-meridian. No, make it night, but make it quick. This intro's getting on my wick. But Wharf-rat slips behind a derrick and disappears into the night to make it seem more atmospheric. This scene is filmed in black and white. The headlights of a truck grow bigger, then fade away. Some steps, a figure. He stops to light a cigarette. It's hot. His shirt is damp. This heat wave shows no sign of stopping. He checks his watch and wipes his brow. His contact should be here by now. The moon that shines tonight on mopping looks like it badly needs a drink. The clouds move in. The shadows